Okay. So tonight's topic, I asked in the coach family about 2 topics, but this is just something that has kind of been on my heart about sharing and don't selling. So I'm going to share my screen really quick because I have, in true teacher fashion, I've got a slide deck to go with it. Hold on. Okay, so I want to talk tonight about, well, I can't see you guys. There, that's better. All right, I want to talk to you guys tonight about share, don't sell, storytelling to build trust. Wow, this would happen. Build trust and add value. So first things first, I hear a lot of people that are really nervous. You know, you get in as a coach and there is a pivotal moment that happens. So I called it the cold market dilemma. So what happens when you've talked to all of your family and friends, you've gone through all of your followers and Facebook friends A to Z, and you found yourself complaining that you can only seem to find other coaches. And I know this has come out of my mouth before. And I remember talking to my coach and saying, I feel like I've run out of people. And she said, I've been doing this for 4 years and I've never run out of people. There are staggering amounts of people that are on the internet, and there are still large percentages of people in the United States that are overweight or are obese and need the gift that we have to give. And so what I want to talk about tonight is this is the time to get creative and not salesy. And also, I call it the warm market mindset. So I get asked a lot of times about, do you do cold reach outs? And so I have a warm market mindset that my job is to share my story and passion and journey. And I reach out to people that either like my posts, watch my stories, or follow me. And to me, those people aren't cold. They're warm. They've invested in my journey in some way. So it is your job to expand your network and attract people through sharing your story. And I think a lot of people say they have this fear of what other people think. And the difference to me and what I'm talking about tonight is the difference in being annoying versus inspirational. So let's talk about it. So storytelling to me is the art of connecting with others, building trust, and eliciting emotion through sharing stories and experiences. So they did this experiment they bought a bunch of thrift store items off of eBay, and it demonstrated the power of storytelling on the value of an object. So stories matter. There were 200 items they bought for about under $3 each, and the 200 items were at $129 for all of them. This is a little horse head, and there's a little bunny, a gold bunny candle. And instead of just posting these items, writers crafted a story along with them. And they went from $129 to almost $8,000. So the horse head that was 99 cents sold for $63 because of the story that went with the horse head. And the bunny sold for $112. So I want to talk about what storytelling is. So storytelling, it happens in a particular moment. A story has a clear beginning, middle, and end. Stories are emotions over information, and there are characters to care about. Before we talk a little bit more about storytelling, I want to talk about what storytelling is not. So storytelling is not a list of features, well-placed emojis, buzzwords, or finger pointing. And I'm going to talk about these things. And I have some examples from coaches on our team and other top coaches that really demonstrate what I'm talking about here. So with storytelling, you should set the scene and be vivid. You should involve specific strategic details. You should allow the reader to be placed in your shoes. So remember the last slide, I said no finger pointing. So I think sometimes in posts we can say, have you thought about this, or have you felt this way? And I've seen the people that I remember their stories, and these that I'm going to show you, is instead of pointing the finger at, don't you want to do this, and haven't you? And it's more about, here's my story, and here's how I felt, or here's where I was. And it allows, because you're so vivid, for the person as they're reading to feel like, oh my goodness, I can relate to this person, and me too. So you want to include and induce emotion, and you want to talk about both the struggle and the hope. So I think sometimes we get so focused on talking about the struggle and where we were in the negative, we forget to very quickly get to the hope aspect of telling our stories. There is a science behind storytelling. So when you tell somebody a story, or you have a post, like any post that we have, when somebody reads it, because every post tells a story, whether it's a good one or not, but it induces emotion. So there is something called Angel's Cocktail, and it is dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. So dopamine is when you start to tell a story and there's a hook and there's a suspense or cliffhanger. So you may start out with a statement and then you go into your story and somebody's on the edge of their seat waiting to hear about how the story ends. Oxytocin is transparency, vulnerability, and that human element. So when somebody reads the story and they have empathy for the story, it increases their generosity, their trust, their bonding, and their relaxation. The other, dopamine, increases their focus and their motivation. All of those things are things that we need people to feel if they're going to invest in us. Because let's be honest, you can go find workout programs and meal plans anywhere. Somebody is going to fall in love with you and your story, and you need to share that for them to believe in the fact that you're going to be adding value into their lives. The next one's endorphins, laughter, creativity, personality. So that increases mood, relaxation, and focus. So here's some examples I pulled from the coaches on our team, and I don't know that they may know some of them, but I just want to show some examples of coaches that do this really well. So this is one from Emily, and I still to this day, I can never get this post out of my mind. So she starts out with that hook and says, I remember when I prayed for the things that I have now. And then she goes on and talks about sitting on the edge of her bed, and she talks about that her sheets were Little Mermaid. And I just remember, because of that small detail, I felt like I was in the room with little girl Emily. And it took me to this place where I was now emotionally invested in whatever she was about to say. I had to know what she was going to say. And so she talks about her life, and it makes you think you have empathy for her story. And then at the end, you feel like you've gotten to know her a little bit. She does it again here, and she's got this side-by-side post, and she talks about her body being through so much, and she tells her story, and that the oxytocin and the dopamine, there's a sense of suspense there. And then she talks about the emotions. You feel what she's saying. You don't feel like she's selling you. Here's another one. I don't know why the picture's not showing up. That's great. But none of hers are showing up. I don't know why. But this is the queen, I feel like, of, let me see if it'll show up no, that's fine. If you don't follow her, I would. Bonnie Engel, I feel like, is the queen of storytelling. So right here, she has this picture of her holding her jeans out. And she talks about, instead of being like, hashtag goals, got back into my pre-pregnancy jeans. She tells this story and she talks about her husband. So her husband becomes a character in her story. And she's talking about, how you have all the different types of jeans in your closet. So she asks a question and you're able to put yourself in her shoes. And then she talks about the jeans and she talks about her husband. And he said, you've worn jeans since you had our baby, right? And she's like, no, you don't understand. These are my skinny jeans, right? And so you feel invested in her story. She then talks about a hater in 8th grade, and she tells the story about that and how somebody today told her about that. I'm just going to skip over hers because the pictures aren't there. But anyway, she tells a story. This is so annoying. Why are the pictures not there? Okay. All right, this one right here was Ashley's. And if you guys remember, it was Ashley and John. And I remember reading it because she started to tell this story about her and her husband. And she gave us this inside look into marriage. And she was real. One of the things that you hear about Ashley and from Ashley is that she's super real. And in here, she talks about fighting for her marriage and the first year of being parents. And she even talks about, there's a shocker in there. She talks about sex with her husband. And so you feel invested in her story. You feel like you get to know her a little bit. I'm sorry, y'all. I hate that these pictures aren't here. There's another one. There was Ashley. She was like laughing when she was in Paris in a hot air balloon. And she used a message that she had gotten that day, and she told a story about it. So she got a message from somebody saying, I want to do what you do, but I can't. I care too much about what people think. And then she goes on to tell the story, and you feel all of the emotions. There's another one about Autumn Cheetalk on our team. Talks about maybe I thought I started for a look or a size or a number on the scale. And then she goes on and talks about her feelings. And she goes on to describe crossing her arms, pulling a scarf in front of her body, hiding behind people. And I just remember reading this thinking, oh my goodness, me too. I was hiding behind my daughter in pictures and I was dressing to cover myself up at all times. Here's one of mine, and it was one of the most liked or interacted posts that I had from my social media. And I started out with the hook, and I talked about, I don't know if I've ever been more nervous to make a post in my life. This is the part of my story that I've been hiding. So I gave a piece of myself that I had never given before. And so I talked about, this was the picture, the one that I saw, and I was like, oh my gosh, do I really look like that? My boss had snapped a picture of me, and at that point, I had felt like me, but what was on the outside didn't match the inside. And I talked about the hardest season of my life. I had just lost 3 pregnancies in 4 months. My parents had split up. And the night before, I had spent the night at the emergency room with my mother. And so, but then I talked about, remember the struggle, but you've got to get to the hope. I talked about, you can't fly the banners of victim and victory at the same time. And so family relationships are still broken, infertility is still unexplained, but my heart is healed and my joy is restored. So hopefully, since you couldn't see the pictures, the words did the talking. But from all of these posts, these people you didn't feel sold to at all. And so when you start to, I want you to share parts of you instead of trying to sell. Because when you try to sell, here's what happens. It's the devil's cocktail instead. Cortisol, adrenaline. So there's stress, there's anxiety, there's fear. It causes the reader, instead of to be relaxed and trusting of you, the reader becomes intolerant, irritable, critical, anxious, and stressed. And so I actually have one of mine that I use as an example. And I will post a slide deck with the pictures. I have no idea what's going on. But I talked about, it was a side-by-side picture last Thanksgiving versus this Thanksgiving. And this is what most of us do. And there's a place for this. I don't want you to feel like, okay, well, if I do the, last chance to enroll and here are all the bullet points and emojis for my boot camp, that it's wrong. There is a place and a time for this. Usually I save them for Transformation Tuesdays or Sundays, but the majority of what you do on social media, you want to share and not sell. So right here, I was selling and it was effective. There was a place for it, but I want to show you guys an example of one that Emily actually did, I think last night or the night before. And it was a side-by-side of her and Miss Goose when Miss Goose was a puppy and when Miss Goose was full grown. And so she kind of does the same thing. So here I'm talking about myself a little bit, but it's more like bullet points for the program. And tonight's your last chance to enroll. And I really don't tell any personal details about myself. No one's really getting to know me. Any Beachbody coach could have posted this. But here's what Emily did. With Emily, you see her personality come through. And she talks about Miss Goose and she's funny. And then she calls out objections. So people started asking her. So you feel what she went through. And throughout the whole thing, she talks about her weights from Ross and then being at home. So you get to know her. She's an introvert. And she talks about Chick-fil-A and hot Cheetos. And then she goes into her boot camp. So because she shared instead of selling, you feel like you got to know Emily a little bit more and it makes you trust her. And by the time that she came in with the fill out the link in my bio for your boot camp, you felt like you trusted her and knew her enough as a friend to go ahead and join her and fill that out. So with storytelling, here's the purpose. You want to elicit emotion, add value, and differentiate yourself. With storytelling, the result, you want to get people to the aha moment through captivating your audience and strengthening your relationship. So I really rely on my timeline on social media to build the relationship for me. So when I'm not, and it may be your style, and if it is great, but it's not my style to go and be like, hey girl, I love that sweater. Where'd you get it? Or your dog's so cute. And then be like, oh, I have this boot camp. I just go straight for the invitation because I feel like I have hopefully told my story and built relationship enough from my timeline that they are already here. You want to captivate your audience and strengthen your relationship through your posts. And I want to challenge you to shift your focus. So as you're posting on social media every day, I think we can get into these ruts sometimes. That it's like we're just posting because we have to. And I've been there myself too. But I want you to shift the focus instead of saying, how am I going to close this deal? Or how am I going to get Success Club points? I want you to start asking yourself, how am I going to connect with this person or these people, whoever your target audience is, and add value to their life? Okay. So what you need to do is to start to see the story in every single day. So I remember one time we were in Vegas and Emily took a picture by the pool. And I was like, how do you come up with these captions? And she was like, I just share what I'm feeling, like my emotion at that moment. And I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. So as you're posting, really just share your heart. It doesn't have to be perfect or beautiful, but start to see the story in each day. Also, look for inspiration and stories in your personal development. If you're doing your personal development every single day like you should, you're reading or listening to things from really inspirational people, and I would bet that they are telling stories. Also, make a list. And in this list, here are the things to think about. So think about in your life, who are the characters? So I know with Ashley, I know if you joined Ashley or you joined Emily or you joined Autumn, you probably joined them. I didn't join Emily because of Beachbody. And with Ashley, if you think about Ashley, probably Beachbody is not the first thing or even one of the number one things that comes to mind when you think about her. You think about her, I think about Revy. I think about the super cool outfits that she wears. I think about how real and honest she is about marriage and life struggles and being a self-love soldier, and that she likes to drink and party. With Emily, I think about her dogs and her story. So think about the characters in your life. With Bonnie, she talks about her husband a lot and how they went from living in debt to being debt free, and her baby is a part of that, her dog. So the characters in your life. For me, my husband is a character. He's an accountant. He was super skeptical of this opportunity. Now we have our puppy Jack. The other day, Jack got out and I shared about that, and my inbox was flooded with people who cared about Jack the Cavapoo that had gotten out. So think about who are the characters in your life that need to be a part of this story. Also the setting, so you can think about just like Emily with those sheets. Describe not just like, the other day I had this thought, or describe where you were and how you felt, and set a picture so people feel like they're right there with you. You can talk about conflict and obstacles and resolutions for that. This is something that also Emily taught me, but before you post, ask yourself, am I just posting to post, or is this valuable? Am I adding value to somebody else's life? And if you can say yes to that, then people are going to want to follow you. Then people are going to trust you. Then people are going to want to join your journey. So you got to ask, is this inspirational? Sometimes, it's okay, you saw those examples and they were like long stories, but I don't want you to feel like you have to do that all the time. You can make people laugh. You can be witty. You can find a quote. If you find a really inspirational quote, that counts as inspiring somebody. Are you adding value? Are you sharing, I'm really terrible at cooking. And so if I find a quick recipe, I try to share that. Are you changing somebody's perception, or are you showing your personality? So you want to be different. Like, what makes you different as a person? Do you like hot Cheetos? Do you have a strong faith? Do you like to drink? Like, whatever makes you need to let people see that in your social media. And then I challenge you to be more than Beachbody. So I think, like I said, this is the difference in being annoying and inspirational. You've got to decide what makes me different than all of the other coaches who are on this call, or the 350,000 coaches who do this as well. What makes me different? Because there's enough people out there that need this gift that, you don't have to be the same. There's enough for all of us, but you've got to find your people through sharing your personality and your story. So, and you guys, I'm sure have heard this before, but you want to find your 5. And for me, it's faith, family, fitness. And so fitness is just one of them. Food fails. I know I posted when I have to sometimes Google how to bake chicken breasts. Like, I'm literally that bad of a cook. And so when I cook something and it's good, people know, like, well, if Heather can do it, I can do it. And I put fighter because, in that post I shared, I have a broken family relationship. I've gone through 4 pregnancy losses. And so that is a huge part of my story that I share. And these things, fitness is just one of those. And so you want to share yourself a lot, frequently. You can't share your story enough. I just want to challenge you, those drop the emoji or the fill out the application in my bio. There is a place for that. You maybe 2 to 3 times a week, you do need to have that. But ask yourself, the other 80% of the time, am I adding value, evoking emotion, sharing my personality, and building trust with other people. Okay, and that's my thing. I'm going to see if there are any. Do any of you guys have questions about what I mean about sharing and not selling or anything like that? I don't think there are any questions. Seeing examples was the best thing. And a lot of what I've done is I've just tried to follow coaches that I relate with, like other coaches that are in your stage of life. So, other coaches who are moms, or other coaches who maybe working moms. And just, I mean, you never be genuine, you never want to copy what somebody else does. And I think that's a mistake sometimes that we make, is we feel like we just have to do what our coach does or what our coach tells us to do and that kind of thing. I think it's okay to emulate other coaches and get ideas from other coaches, but the thing that's going to set you apart is sharing your feelings and your life and what makes you who you are. And I feel like for so long I was afraid to do this. I was like, what are people, like I said, what are people going to think? Are people going to think I'm super annoying? And if you are sharing your heart and your journey, like, and it's helped me shift my mindset, because if I'm sharing about my pregnancy losses or the dark place that I was at one point and then the hope that I've found, if somebody finds that irritating or annoying, they're not your tribe. Like, they weren't your friends, they're not your tribe. I mean, if you are genuinely sharing you, but if you are just Beachbody Billboard, it is annoying, right? And so you've got to be different than everybody else and add value. I just try to make it my goal is, not doing it for the Success Club or the money or anything like that. I wanted to help one person. And I remember Emily told me, you've got to think of this like a gift. So you can't be afraid to present it as such. And so I just share this with anybody and everybody, and build that relationship and trust. I mean, even when I message somebody and send them my hey girl, 99% of the time they come back and say, I'm already on so-and-so's team, or I'm already in so-and-so's boot camp, or I already do this, but you're so inspirational, or I follow you for the motivation. And at the end of the day, that matters. And at the end of the day, a lot of those people that, I have some people, I had a girl today that was a loyal 9-rounder, and something happened and I was like, never thought she would join me. And she messaged me and was like, you've kept me going to the gym and now I can't for whatever reason. So I want to join you. And it's just over time, the more you share your story, the more people are going to relate to you and trust you, feel like they know you. I was afraid to be funny. I felt like I had to be this person that everybody else wanted me to be. And I was like, I felt like I was being maybe 3/4 of myself. And then I was like, you know what? You can be funny. You can share about Tara and our tribe. You can share about the lady who was drinking wine out of a Pringles can in the Walmart parking lot. I don't know if you guys saw that, but you're free to be yourself. So be yourself, share your journey, share the heartbreak, share the hope, dig deep into your story, and don't be afraid to let people in, because that's when they're going to trust you. That's what's going to set you apart. And I think there are questions now. So I will look at them. Yes, I will put once I get I have the download of the PDF, so I'll post it when I get the photos. on there. I don't know why that didn't work. Do you usually think of the story first and then add a photo or get inspiration from your photos? It just depends. Like, I always try to do a good mixture of the side-by-side photos. If you look on your Instagram, like the 9 layout, you want to have a side-by-side, whether it be full body or face, every few lines, because you don't want somebody to have to scroll to see what you have to offer. So if you pull up your Instagram right now and you're like, okay, snapshot, just looking at that, you don't want to be just a Beachbody coach, right? But you want somebody to be able to look at your page and know what you have to offer, right? So like Emily's, hers isn't just all Beachbody, but you can see from the picture with her and Miss Goose, like she has transformations very frequently. So sometimes I know it's time for me to have a transformation side by side, and I have a folder on my phone, and it's kind of a painful process, but I would just go through your phone and, you know, on Facebook, when people tag you in a picture, but you don't want it to tag you because it's like from the awkward side angle that you don't like go back through your pictures. And I have a folder on my phone that's called Before. And so on my Tuesdays or Sundays, whenever I do the side by side, I look at that Before album. And the picture that went with my story that I said was my probably most liked post at that point was a picture of me like this, and my boss had taken it. And I just try to go back to the moment of that day. I mean, I remember my boss took the picture. It was a candid picture. He texted it to me, and I felt I felt good. And then when he sent me that picture, I was like, okay, that's what I look like. And I had just literally come off the hardest season of my entire life. And I was wearing it on the outside a lot more than I realized that I was. And so that picture, I had the picture already, tried to put myself back in the moment of when that picture happened, and then told the story. You know, and sometimes like the one of Ashley on the hot air balloon was like her laughing. So I doubt that she took that picture with the intention. So I also have, you know, an album of pictures of, you know, invest in good pictures, or go with your friend in a field or downtown or somewhere, but have a folder of maybe stock photos when you do get inspired or you do see a quote or something like that, that you have this arsenal of pictures that can go with something inspirational. So to answer your question, Grace, it's both. Sometimes I think of the story and then have the picture to go with it. And then sometimes I already had the picture and take myself back to the moment. Yeah, I love that. Make your post worth somebody's time. I mean, you know, you hear it all the time. We all scroll. My husband says, like, my finger, I should be able to lift a house. The way we scroll on our phones, you've got to stop somebody's scroll. And the way you're going to do that is an engaging picture, but also you've got to hook them right away. And when you start to tell that story, somebody becomes invested in your post and in you. Advice on sharing past experience with use, but my father is still on social media. So Kirby, with that, I have to be really careful with my family situation as well. So I am just like, that post that I told you was my most liked post ever was probably the most nerve-wracking post that I've ever posted of all time. I was really nervous to post it because it did start to divulge a little bit of that family information. And so I think you just use integrity about how much you can share. I think there is an art to and a way to share a story without divulging a ton of details. So just use integrity, you know, your own safety. I mean, I know in my situation, I can share a little bit, but I try to protect myself and others. So just use integrity with that. Let's see. I will share the sides so you can read more. I'm a new coach, but I'm struggling to find my voice with who I am in this business. How do you think is the best way to work through that? So I think to find your voice as a new coach, I think you share your journey, like the ugly, the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, if you scroll social media, I mean, even like Emily and Ashley, I mean, I did it. If you guys haven't done it, like go scroll all the way down to the post that they posted at the very beginning. Like all top coaches started somewhere, and you'll see the evolution of posts. And even with mine, I mean, they're like, I did all the things that they say not to do in the beginning. But I think as a brand new coach, I don't think you worry so much about like getting everything perfect. I think you just share your heart and the rawness of the journey and share your why. Like for me, I can't share enough, and I should share more about where I was. I mean, this time last year, I was literally starting 80-Day Obsession. But before that, I mean, I had my 4th miscarriage on January 11th of 2018, and I started 80-Day Obsession on January 14th. So talk about somebody that had every excuse in the book. But the month before, I found myself on the floor of my bathroom, feeling super hopeless and not knowing what to do. And then I saw my coach. I started seeing this light in her eyes. I didn't know what, I'm like, tell me about this 80-day thing and what is it? Because I need some light in my eyes, right? So you just share the ugly, like share the days you don't feel like working out, share what you eat, share your life, share where you're going. You just start to share it and be genuine and organic about it and share your why over and over. Let's see. One question I have is, there is about 10 hours in my day where I can't do many stories because of my job. How can I stay consistent with this? So I actually have this prob as well. So the days that I teach, I'm at the podium and back to back to back from probably about 8 to 10 a.m. until 8 o'clock at night. So what I do on those days is it's not necessarily me talking, but I try to share, like, because I am at the podium, I have to have a lunch that is really quick and easy. So I don't have time to sit down and eat. I don't even have access to a microwave between classes. So I share my that goes with my food fails and that I'm a terrible cook. So I'll share what I'm eating, or I just try to share, like, so you have those 10 hours in the day that you can't be on stories. So make a point to those days that I teach and I know I can't be on. I make it a point to like share as I'm getting ready. I'll share, and this whole like share, don't sell. It's more than sharing your story and your why. It's like sharing everything. So I add value, I feel like, in people's lives, because I think about like, what do I use? What do I eat? What do I love? What do I do? How do I think? And I share all of that with people. So like, I have really sensitive teeth and I can't use teeth whitening, but there's one teeth whitening thing that I have that I can use. So I share that. And then actually that company reached out and was like, hey, you can be an ambassador for us. I share the workout clothes that I love. I love Kiava's striped leggings, and I wore those forever. Kiava reached out. Do you want to be a brand ambassador? So you just start out by sharing the stuff that you love. I mean, I know Emily and Ashley both share, when they get packages in, they share what they order. And I feel like there are people in this world that would literally buy anything that Ashley posted just because Ashley posted it, right? And so just start to share the stuff that you use. If you've got a kitchen gadget that you like, share that. But the days I have the long stretches where I can't necessarily talk into my stories, I'll try to do still pictures in my stories, and I do a lot of talking before and after. Yesterday was one of those days, and I think it's still on my story, that I was just real about the day. I was like, I've been at work all day. I'm leaving work. It's like almost 10 o'clock. I just got off of a call. And so I tried now my goal is recruiting coaches and building a team. So I'm trying to talk about the non-glamorous side of coaching, that this is like really hard work, right? And so just be organic and share your life. But if you've got a stretch, you can do still pictures, boomerang, whatever in between, and then do stuff before and after. All right. Kirby, we can, if you want to talk about that offline, we can. Is sharing a narrative every day too much, or would you suggest storytelling daily or just a couple times a week? So that's a great question. So I think it's a balance. I think someday, and again, look at it like, I feel like Emily and Ashley both, I mean, they're top 1 and 3 coaches for a reason. They both do it really well. And it's just a balance. Some days it's short and witty and funny, or some days it's a quote that's inspirational with a little bit of a reflection. Some days it is a really long narrative, and sometimes about once or twice a week, it is the typical, like, I've got 20 spots and I'm looking for my girls for my boot camp, and here's the boot camp details. So I think, yes, sharing a narrative you don't want every post to be storytelling. So I feel like if every single day, every single one of my posts, you don't want to do anything too much. So it's just going to be a balance of sharing, but the majority of what you do needs to be, even when that's why this is share, don't sell. Even when you are selling, you still want to be adding value, evoking emotion, and letting people put themselves in your shoes. Just like Autumn talked about this, like I could literally, when she was talking about the scarf and pulling that in front of her chest, like I feel like I could feel the heaviness and the weight of a scarf around my shoulders, and could just feel myself hiding behind my daughter in pictures. She was inviting to a boot camp, but she put me in her shoes and evoked all the emotion. And I was like, me too. If I hadn't already signed up, I would have signed up with her after that. So it's definitely a balance. Okay. Can you tell us, since your background or expertise is in business, are there any business tips that you use? I think this is going to be my next call when I come on in February. But I do have some things that I try to do smart to streamline. I mean, I am a mom and I do work full time, and there I have gotten out of balance. I mean, there have been times where my husband's like, whoa, girl, like you're gonna have to work smarter and not harder. And so I feel like I have streamlined a lot of systems. I use text replacements on my phone. I use units in my groups. I have a packet for new coaches. There are a lot of things that I try to do to streamline my business, because time is my most valuable commodity other than my family. And so, yes, I will talk soon about just working smarter and not harder and that kind of thing. So yes, coming soon. How long would you suggest reaching back out to somebody who's interested in the timing? It just isn't right for them. So that is the importance of showing up day in and day out. So, I mean, I joined coaching February 20th, 2018, and I'll give you $5 if you can find it. I have not missed a single day of posting since February 20th. And I've gotten in these ruts. Like, I'm sharing this with you guys because I've been there. I've been Sally salesperson, and it's like, this isn't converting and people don't trust me, and like, what is happening? So I've tried to go out, and it's like, the Beachbody coaches that are doing it right. I'm like, what is Bonnie doing? What is Emily doing? What is Ashley doing? But I don't copy them. I'm like, they aren't selling. I feel like I'm getting to know them and their families. Like, it's weird. If you guys have been to Summit before, you know the feeling that when you go and you like see these people, you feel like you know them because you've watched their entire lives unfold on social media and they have no idea who you are. But you feel like you know them, you know their dog, you know their husband, you know their personalities, you know their story. And that's how you want people to feel about you. But I'm getting off on tangents, but somebody who's interested in the timing, but it's not right, you just have to keep showing up. I do have, and I try not to get too like rulesy, I don't know if that's a word, about things, but I usually do reach out. I think it's like maybe 311, like 3 days later, and then maybe at the end of the week or like the challenge group deadline before I'm about to start a next one, and then I'll wait until the next month. So I usually do have a pretty quick follow-up, and then I'll follow up again. But when timing is just not right for somebody, I just never give up on somebody. And I look at it like it's my job to share, not sell. And if I continue to share my results and share my story, those people come back eventually. So yeah, always keep people on your radar, but keep showing up because that's what makes them come back. All right, my struggle is with reaching out and starting the conversation with somebody. How do you start out and not make that initial conversation sound salesy? So my Hey Girl is very personalized to me and who I am and what I'm about. And I have had coaches try to use my exact Hey Girl, and it doesn't translate well from them because it is not what they're about. So my Hey Girl says something like, I thank people for following my journey. Because remember, I have the warm market mindset. If they've followed, liked, or watched, that's who I reach out to. So I thank them for being a part of my faith and fitness journey. And I talk about a little bit what I do in my challenge groups, which is we work on health from the inside out, spiritual, physical, mental, all of the things. And I just ask them, is this something you'd be interested? Is this something you or somebody else would be interested in? That's an important little thing, because sometimes they're like, yeah, and my sister and my mom and my best friend, and then they become an Emerald coach the very same day. And then I compliment them. I'd love to have your positivity or your motivation or your inspiration, just whatever they're about on their page. I would love to have you as a part of that in that group. So it's very personal, but it's very casual, I feel like, as well. So also, I just think you take the pressure off yourself. Like I heard once, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So if somebody needs this gift, however you reach out to them at first, if you share and don't sell and you're genuine about sharing your why and your journey, they're going to come back to you eventually. Okay. Do you have examples of your reach outs? So we have in the file section of the Coach Family, those are my scripts. So I posted mine in there. Please don't copy them exactly, because that's going to be super awkward when we all send the same exact one to the same people. But they are in the file section of the Coach Family. Let's see. How do you get over the fear of thinking, why would anyone want to hear about this kitchen gadget from me? I think the first step in all of this, my team is called Faith Over Fear. So I think the first step in all of this is just having faith in you and your own journey and just like stepping out in fear. You're going to be really surprised. I'm like, nobody on the internet cares about me and my life and my story. And, once you start to share it, like I have people that they haven't joined the first challenge group. I have a little old lady that comments on everything that I do, but I feel like she feels like she knows me and she's truly invested in me. You're going to be surprised at like the people that are going to care about the kind of mascara that you use and that your dog got out, or that you use this certain spiralizer. Another thing, I feel like I'm going to start to add it to my 5, but one of mine is Amazon finds. I'm like an Amazon queen. I don't like shopping in person. I don't like leaving my house if I don't have to. So I have started sharing the stuff that I get on Amazon. I just share the stuff, and people will care. Your people will care. The people who don't care, they're not your people. There, I love it. Kelsey said, people care what you have to say, especially if they're your tribe. So you share, your tribe will follow. Was sharing on stories hard for you at first? Did you feel like people were judging you? If so, how did you get over that? Sharing on stories was probably one of my greatest fears. Even to this day, when I'm on a Zoom call or on my stories, I don't like to look at myself on video. I think you can pose for a picture, but there's like only so much you can hide from in video. So I know with stories, you are your own worst critic. I promise you, nobody else is like over analyzing the zit that's above your eyebrow that only you know about. Yes, it was hard for me at first, but I just started to have the mentality that this is a gift, and the people on the other side watching my stories, they need to see my journey. They need to hear the motivation. I'm adding value, and I make that my job. My job isn't to sell challenge packs and get Success Club. My job is to add value to people's lives and inspire others to be on their own journey. And I promise when you start to do that and you invite people to join you, the other stuff happens. So did you feel like people were judging me? People were judging me. I got nasty messages from people that are like, you're not a Christian woman because you're posting pictures in a sports bra. I mean, I got nasty messages. I had people judging me, people that like women I go to church with. I was like, wow, I thought you were my people, but you're not. And so I've just learned, be careful. The people that you think are in your circle, but aren't in your corner. The people that are in your circle, but aren't in your corner. So I just learned like that person is not for me. And through this, I've seen that person, watch who doesn't clap when you win. Because you're gonna, as you start to change your life and you start to get healthier from the inside out, there are gonna be people that were with you in the valley that it's gonna bug them to see you climb to the mountaintop. So I think you just have to know that you are gonna be judged. You are gonna annoy some people, okay? It's just gonna happen. But your why has to be so strong that you're gonna face your fear and share your journey and invite people along with you regardless. So I just got over it because I knew there were Heathers sitting on their couch and on their bathroom floors that needed what I had found. And so the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get. And I just look at it like I'm talking to my best friend on the other side of the phone. I don't think about that it's X number of Instagram followers. I just talk to a friend and share my life. Take the pressure off yourself. Okay. For challenge groups, do you start a new group each time, or do you have a challenge group? Do you already, okay. For all the challenge group questions, I do have an ongoing so I was doing like 80 day and lift, and I had all these different challenge groups, and I just kind of followed or did what Emily did. And just recently, just to make life easier, because now I have people doing all kinds of different programs. I have an ongoing challenge group called Faith Over Fear Fit Club. And when I do this systems to streamline your business, I can talk about the way I run challenge groups. But it's like today, the girls started Transform 20, and there were like our sweaty selfie posts from this morning. At one point, I mean, there was like 100 maybe people that had like started sharing their sweaty. It's one of the most active groups and sisterhoods. Like they take care of each other. It's amazing that I've ever been a part of. So I've really enjoyed that. Don't be okay. Let's see. I'm just looking at your comments. You guys are my tribe for sure. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I just want you all to have the mindset. I know I probably started out super awkward and the picture's not showing up through me for an extreme loop, but bottom line, you've got to share and not sell. You're not here to be a salesperson. That is going to turn people off. If you are all about Beachbody, that is going to annoy people. People need you. They're going to fall in love with you before they fall in love with Beachbody or the product. They're going to buy into who you are. So share your journey. And, and nobody asks this, but, I think sometimes it's like a privacy concern, or, my husband doesn't even have Instagram. He's one of the most private people ever. And so I think he now looks at my Instagram to be like, oh Lord, what is she sharing today? But I just think that when you are transparent, just like with those emotions, you build the empathy. If you're transparent, people can put themselves in your shoes. They start to trust you, and you become more than a Beachbody coach to them. You feel like a friend. And so there is that point. I mean, I'm just being super realistic, that there's that point in your business that I think Ashley says you're going to have somebody that's going to buy dirt. So when I started as a coach, I had like a group of people that if I literally sold dirt on the side of the road, they would have bought dirt from me. But then there comes a point in your coaching journey that you've ran out of the dirt friends, and you've got to start attracting strangers from Instagram. So how are you going to attract strangers? You've got to build trust and relationship with them. And I don't know that happens exclusively in a conversation. They need to see your life and who you are. You've got to add value to people's lives, because I look at it like if you continue to add value, you give them inspiration, you give them motivation, then when you drop a DM that says, hey girl, join me in this challenge group, they're like, oh my gosh, I've been following you and I love your dog and you and your daughter, and you're so motivational. And they've seen you show up every day, day in and day out. And so it's just like I've said before, this business is like baking a cake. We all say we want the cake, but then when we're given the ingredients, we don't want to do the work to bake the cake. We just like want the cake. And so the showing up every day, the reaching out and the inviting and adding value to people's lives. So share, don't sell. And it doesn't always have to be a super long story. Make people laugh, inspire people, but just ask yourself every day, am I adding value to somebody's life? What is this? Okay, that's funny. Shout out to Olivia's boyfriend. But yeah, anyways, I hope this was useful for you guys. Thank you for your patience with me and my nerves at the beginning. This is a learning and growing experience for me as well. But just step out in faith and add value to people's lives, and as you continue to work on your own, and share. And don't feel, I have coaches that get stuck in the rut that they feel like they have to be positive Polly all the time. Some of my most relatable posts and stories and things like that are when I am in a little bit of a dark place. And there are going to be days where you don't feel like posting a picture with your energize and whatever. So on those days, I mean, there's one day that I put my feet up at the edge of my tub and just shared my heart about where I was, because I had had an anxiety attack that day, and just shared the emotions that I was in. But I'm careful to share the struggle and then the strength that comes out of it. You've got to give people value and hope. And so just share your life, take the pressure off yourself, and just know that somebody needs to hear your story. So I think that is all the questions, and I recorded, so I will post this to the team page later, and I will also post the slides and pray that the pictures show up, because that was awkward and fun. So anyways, I've enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later. Bye.